and welcome to a new special video here on the channel. We are still celebrating the 10-year anniversary of this channel, and today I want to go a little bit back in time down memory lane. I have been sent this catalog from a dear friend who found it as he's currently moving. And this is a catalog from Schuko or StarJets. They kind of cooperated back in the day from 2002, and I thought it could be quite fun to actually go through this and see what they came up with back in the day. Now, as this is part of the 10-year anniversary celebration, there is also a special code hidden somewhere here in the video, and if you type that code in the corresponding post on Instagram, there will be a link to that post in the video description below. Then you get additional entries in the fourth and final giveaway. All four giveaways will be ending on December 6th, and the winners will be contacted directly on Instagram. So we see, of course, back in the day, also Schuko and StarJets were quite heavy on Lufthansa, no surprise. Schuko, of course, being a German company, StarJets being a subsidiary of Gemini Jets, or sub-brand, or whatever you want to call it. But let's see what this catalog had to offer. And we actually already have one thing that is really interesting here on the very first page, because it talks about a long tradition. And that Schuko was already making die-cast models all the way back in the 1970s. This is something I really did not know. They were very clearly making die-cast models way before Herpa was even thinking about making their wings division. Now then, we have, of course, a little bit of an overview here. The first side, we have scale 500, 200 and 400 models in this catalog. And let's see what they had in the scale 500 market on offer. Now, let's see. So the first thing I noticed is that we unfortunately don't seem to have prices of the models. That would have been really interesting to see what they would have charged back in the day. But we do actually already get quite an impression of the details that are on these aircraft models, which is easily beating what Herpa brings out these days. And as I said, this is a catalog from 2002. So we have the Lufthansa 727-100 in a classic livery, a 727-100 in their livery. I think they had it from the 1970s onwards to the late 1980s, and then of course the 1998, I think, then the Lufthansa livery with the all white and grey belly fuselage was introduced. So an A340 in that, and then again the more classic livery of a 747-200. So yeah, quite a lineup. I mean, 3 classic airliners and a modern day airline. For 2002, the A340 was still a fairly modern aircraft. Let's see what they continued with then. An A320 of LTU in a standard livery, so that actually is quite interesting, quite lovely as well. I, of course, always like standard liveries. They had a 727-100 of Hapag-Lloyd, and then, of course, they had MD-11F of Lufthansa Cargo, quite cool as well, and a Swiss Air, a classic Swiss Air. And I believe, didn't Swiss Air go bankrupt? Yeah, I think it was around 2003, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that would have been pretty much in the final days of Swiss Air, this model being released. We have an Austrian A321 in the standard livery they used back in the day. We have a 777 of Air France. We have the A340-300 of SAS, and unless they have made multiple versions of that, then that is actually a model that I have in my collection. They also made a Sabena, I see here, A340. That would also be in the later years of Sabena. I don't think they made it that far into the early 2000s. That was also around the time when they collapsed. Then we have, and see, that is also quite interesting. Let's see, we have 2 727-100s of Northwest, in the Northwest Orient livery. But let's see, are they the same? So they do have different product numbers. wait, let's see. So we have one which says polished, and then we have one chrome plated. Okay, so I assume it is the same aircraft. Yeah, it does look like the same registration as well. So they had this in 2 versions. That's actually also quite cool. I mean, we see something similar, I think, today, where manufacturers start offering models in various degrees of detailing. I can't really make my mind up if I like it or not. I mean, it is kind of, I guess they offer kind of entry models for those younger collectors, I think mainly, that maybe don't have that deep of a wallet, and they can get some nice models to start with. And the more hardcore collectors that really just want all the detailing they can get, they can then maybe spend a little bit more money and get something really nice as well. On the other hand, I just think manufacturers should just always, you know, do their best, and that's what they sell. But okay, so StarJet did back in the day do various versions of the same aircraft, in this case the Northwest Orient. And then we have also one KLM 747-300, that's interesting, and a 400, because the 300, of course, wasn't, I think, a very big success. I know Swiss Air, I think they had the 300, but in this case it's a cargo variant of the 300 of KLM, taking things further, it says on the livery. Interesting. And then of course we have just a classic KLM 747-400, where they still had the quite wide blue, dark blue cheat line on the livery. Okay, before I jump to the Pan Am aircraft, of course I have to laugh a little bit about the Braniff, just because we nowadays, even today, we're still getting way too many Braniff aircraft. But I guess back then it was maybe a little bit more justified, and especially in the quantities that were made back in the day. Nowadays we get way too many of them from Herpa. StarJet's also made a Braniff 747-100, crucially. And then of course we have, and I think they are actually, for me, nicer, the Pan Am models, with the 2 different liveries of Pan Am. I mean, they had many liveries, but 2 variants here, the 747-100 and the 727-100. I think the 747 looks, yeah, that is a nice looking aircraft model. I mean, we can see we have landing lights on the wings. That's great. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. We don't have prints on the landing gear, it seems, but hey, still better than what Herpa does. Let's see what else we have here. Apparently a new also model here. It's the A319 of Northwest. I believe, was it called bowling shoe livery? I think it was adopted, something like that. If you know what this livery, it had a nickname. If you know, let me know in the comment section below. Then for those who like house colors, they had a TriStar in the TriStar, Lockheed TriStar house colors. Really not my cup of tea. Yeah, this 70s orange, I've never been a huge fan of these colors, but yeah, not too bad. A Varek in a special livery, in a World Cup livery, so 2000, that must be the World Cup then, the livery they had for the 2002 World Cup, which they of course won in Japan and South Korea, won in the final against Germany. And then a 777-200 of American. Now we can't really see if this classic American Airlines livery is in a polished, or as we saw it with the Northwest, if it's polished or chrome plated. That I don't know, it's not specified. But again, I mean, just you can already here see we have again the landing lights are there. We have some quite nice detailing on the wings. Yeah, not too bad. Again, for a 2002 model, that's pretty good work. And then we have a Sichuan Airlines. I don't know the obsession with Sichuan Airlines. They seem massively over-featured in Scale 500. It doesn't help that Herpa also has made countless of them. They all end up as donor models. That's my feeling at least. But yeah, so they also had a Sichuan A320 with a little panda on the livery. Yeah, why not? Then they had an Eastern. That's a nice livery. Eastern livery, a DC-8. Of course, already their classic airline, the airline was already gone at that time, but that's a nice looking aircraft model as well. Nice livery, suits the DC-8 as well. And then we have two Korean Air MD-11s, one passenger version, one cargo version. And the cargo version, that should also be the one that I have in my collection. I don't have the passenger version, but I did get a Korean Air Cargo MD-11 cargo variant in my collection from StarJet, and that is a very lovely model. And I doubt that the passenger version will be less detailed. So yeah, if you find those, you can get yourself a very nice aircraft model indeed. It's a 757 of Royal Nepal, and then a special livery, Thai Dragon Boat livery from Thai Airways, an A330-300, and then an Olympic Airways Airlines. They changed their legal name quite a bit through the years, A340-300, but the livery quite iconic on any aircraft. Then we go to the Scale 200 offerings they had. I think that's also quite interesting to just dive in a little bit into. They have some close-up images here of some details. We have the engines there where you can look through. So things we also see today actually. So yeah, let's see. They have start off with Lufthansa, so it is definitely also aimed at the German market. So two Lufthansas, an A319 and A320, the 19 with the Lufthansa Lu special livery, and then the A320 in the standard livery. Yeah, I mean, of course, nowadays you would get models in Scale 200 with many more printed details, but again, for 2002, that's really not too bad. You have some static ports, yeah, a little bit of detailing on the wings, you have some prints on the engines. Yeah, that's okay. That's really not too shabby. And then they have a few more here. An Austrian A320-100. Oh, and a 100. That's actually quite rare because yeah, they weren't built that long. They quite quickly switched to the 200 variant. So an A320-100 Austrian Airlines in the Star Alliance livery. I think that was the second iteration of the Star Alliance livery. So the first Star Alliance livery, of course, had like full segments of the member airlines liveries on the fuselage, which was quite elaborate, quite cool. But of course, with more airlines joining the airline alliance, that very quickly I think became too difficult to maintain. So then they switched to this kind of tile variant where they had like the tiles with the brandings of the member airlines across the fuselage. Wasn't my favorite, but at least not back in the day, but still quite cool. And we can see there they had Varig, United, Tyrolean, Thai, Singapore, SAS, Lufthansa Lauda, British Midland International, Ansett Australia was still there, ANA, Air New Zealand, Air Canada, and Austrian Airlines. Yeah, quite interesting. And then they also had an A321-100 of Scandinavian Airlines. Also an aircraft we don't see anymore. The A321 has been taken out of service with SAS already a few years now, unfortunately. And then the A321-100 of Lufthansa in their standard livery as well. Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Again, a few images with some close-up details that were added to these aircraft models. And I think now we're getting into the Gemini Jets Scale 400 territory that they had back there. And we have that should be a DC-10 if I am not mistaken. Does it say anywhere? So they have apparently also with this model, it's a Condor. Now what does it say? Display stand chrome plated. Display stand polished. Okay, so that's actually the difference is not in the model it seems, but in the stand. Okay, I don't know if that's so important. But interesting concept. Then they have a bunch of Lufthansas. A 707, a 727, a 737 Classic, and a DC-10. Let's see what else they had on offer. Then at the time, current day livery, A320 Lufthansa standard livery, then the DC-10. Okay, so they did also have that. Now let's just see. So maybe that was actually, okay, so I get it. So the first they show here, it's actually not the model, but you could buy the stand separately, and they had it in 2 variants. Okay, yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, I even back then they should just have included stands with their models if they wanted to use stands, but okay. And definitely also nowadays, but hey. But then they actually did have the DC-10 also in 2 variants, as a polished and a chrome-plated. Obviously the chrome-plated looks much better, but still both aircraft models have, I think, the same amount of detailing, so the only difference here would have been just getting a polished model or a chrome-plated model. Then they had a Condor 767-300 in what would have been the new Condor standard delivery back in the day, when this catalog was released. A Swiss Air A319, also in, I believe, their last standard livery. A Hapag-Lloyd 737-800, so quite Eurocentric actually here. I wonder if they would have had a separate catalog for the North American market. But yeah, this is really very super Eurocentric for scale 400. A DC, no, an MD-11 of LTU, and then a 747-100 of Alitalia. Also an airline that does not exist anymore. And then of course there is a Concorde that seems always to be, especially back in the day, there was, yeah, the Concorde was always there. But of course it was still flying, so it made sense, I guess. In that case of British Airways, then 2 British Airways 737-200s with 2 different tails, world tails, Bauhaus and Botswana. Yeah, nice. Then a DC-10 of KLM and 777 of Air France. But I think the most interesting here, the 747-200 of Scandinavian Airlines. I love this livery, super classic. Even though it was insanity back in the day for Scandinavian Airlines to buy the 747, and they very quickly found out that it was very expensive. So they didn't last very long with SAS, and then a little 737-200 of Alaska in a standard livery. So they did also have a little bit of North American in this catalog. Okay, and now we get more North American. I was wondering, it was very Eurocentric. Here we have a full page with almost only North American models. So again, we have 2 757s in basically the same model, but in 2 variants, again with the polished version or the chrome-plated version. And then the, what is that, a DC-8 of Japan Airlines. And then again, just pure North American with Delta, the Delta Olympic Soaring Spirit livery on a 777. And then we have some more Delta Airlines here. As it says here, the old livery, the classic livery, Delta Airlines 727, and TriStar, an MD-11, and then an MD-11 in the interim colors. Interesting. Okay, and then they have a bunch of classic things here with a Northwest. Okay, that's going way back. A Northwest DC-8, another Braniff 707. Yeah, why not? And then an Avianca Columbia 767-300. Then again the World Cup variant of the Varig MD-11. So that was offered in scale 500 and 400. A couple of 737 Southwest aircraft, a classic, and a NG, an ATA. Who did take? I don't remember who took over ATA. But here in a 737-800. And then an airline that I have no knowledge about, but it seems to be a North American airline. It does have a US flag on and a US registration. Planet Airways 727-200. Not an airline that I'm familiar with. And that was it. That was the catalog from Schuko, StarJets, Gemini Jets, scale 500, 200 and 400 from 2002. Some interesting things. I mean, we see some things that we kind of get today. We see some things that we don't really get anymore. I mean, in scale 500, at least we don't really get the having one aircraft being featured in 2 or more variants. It's something that does happen in scale 400. I'm I know of, and in a sense also in scale 200, I mean, where you have like different wing configurations, but in the sense of how do you treat the surface of a model? Is it polished or is it chrome? That is something I think we can still find in scale 400, but I can't remember when we've had that last in scale 500. So yeah, interesting stuff. Axel, you sent me this. Thank you very much. It was very kind of you. It was really interesting to dig through this and see, yeah, what was offered. The only thing I'm really, what would have been really nice, the cherry on the icing, so to say, would have been if there would have been prices in the catalog, just to see what these models did cost back in the day. Now that's all for this little relaxing video here on a Friday, where we were going down memory lane with this lovely little catalog. I hope you found the code. If so, then don't forget you can enter that in a comment in the corresponding giveaway post on Instagram, and you can find that post linked in the video description below. Good luck to anyone taking part in these giveaways, and thank you so much for watching this video. Hope to see you very soon again here on the channel. I'm checking out, and bye.
From unboxing vids to detailed tours, this community, it just ensures every plane fan's got a place to be in this 10-year anniversary.